everybody. I'm Joanna. I'm joined with Hannah Jinks, a Christian, a wife, mom, Bible class teacher, and most recently a collaborating author with Creation to Revelation. We are so excited to have her here today, and I guess take it away, Hannah. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your family.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited and eager to talk about something that means a lot to me. So my husband's name is Eddie. We live in New Jersey, and we have 3 children. Erilyn, who is 6, almost about to turn 7. Ellie Joy, who is 5. And Ed, who just turned 2. He's the one who keeps us all on our toes. But we live in New Jersey, and this is one of our favorite times of year because we've just recently, over the last couple of years, discovered that we love to garden as a family. And so our garden is like set up and going, and we're spending as much time as we can outside. We homeschooled this past school year, which was unexpected and new, but turned into such a wonderful blessing for us. And we were really excited that it happened. And now we are actually kind of switching gears and planning for our girls to go back to public school this fall. And so kind of working on that change and adjustment. And anyways, it's going to be a good summer. We're excited.
Very exciting, and excited to hear about that garden too. So I guess tell me a little bit about how this past year affected you with your Bible studies and your kids. I know so many Bible classes had to not meet, and it was just tough for everyone. But with those young kids, how'd you make it through?
Yeah. Okay. So COVID, we live in the Northeast, and COVID hit super hard, super fast. Everything was shut down and just stayed shut down for a really long time. And it was tough. It was hard. That first Sunday where things were closed down, I was teaching at our congregation, and so I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do a live stream of our Bible class, and I decided to use Facebook since I already had the Mom Made Me Facebook page going where I was already sharing Bible class information. So I thought, you know what, I'll just put it here. If someone else wants to join, great. And I don't remember how many people joined that day, but there were a lot of people from all over the country. And I just kept getting notifications all throughout the day as people from different time zones were watching the replay of the class. And it was really cool to be able to be helpful to others during that time, not just that Sunday, but then we continued live streaming that class for the rest of the quarter. And it was just really fun to be able to share our Bible time. So it started with my Bible class and kind of evolved into us sharing our singing that we do with our family, and just our verse memorization that I do with the girls at mealtime. And it just kind of, snowballed into us sharing lots of different aspects of our daily Bible time. And it was really cool to hear, and kind of this sense of community was created where we were all memorizing verses together and memorizing 17 time periods together. And it was a really unexpected blessing that happened. And I am so thankful that happened amidst all this turmoil and hard stuff that was going on because of COVID. There was this really bright space on the internet where people who just loved kids and wanted to help kids and support kids. There were people who were grandparents or didn't have kids, and they were still commenting and just being supportive, which was awesome. And I think it also meant so much more because we weren't having in-person interactions, very rarely. And so it just meant even more to have this community of people who were communicating and reaching out and loving each other. And it was really special and really cool. So
that sounds very encouraging. Yes. So with all of that, did you use any specific materials that you'd like to talk about?
So I used CTR, Creation to Revelation, I was already using it in my in-person Bible class, and I've been using Creation to Revelation for at least 5 or 6 years in my Bible classes, and teachers are kind of limited where we are in the Northeast, and so I teach multiple quarters in a row sometimes, and CTR, ever since I found it, has just been there for me. They've just had exactly what I needed. So that's definitely who I really relied on during that time. We used a lot of the songs from each Little Dewdrop CD. We used that. We still use it all the time in our family, but that was really helpful because it was an easy way where I could point people during that time where we were singing these songs on online classes and people wanted to sing along, but they didn't know them. So I could just direct people to that link and people could buy it. So that was really, really great. We also used a lot of Dear Mushka verse cards, and those were a super big blessing. They're just 4x6 little cardstock cards with verses on them, and that's what I use during mealtime memory with my kids to just memorize little bits of scripture. And I realized doing that, we tried to do it during breakfast, and that became such a huge positive thing for our day because it started off our day on this like really good note. And I realized not only did that help the kids, but it really helped me to be able to sit there and just be drilling all of these Bible verses. And like, what a better way to start off your day with like, committing 15 Bible verses to memory and just saying, okay, like, here we go. Here's the kind of headspace we're going to live in today. So, yeah, I think those are the main ones that we used.
Fantastic. It's very encouraging hearing the different ways that people have made it through this past year without those in-person meetings. And I have been so encouraged and just overjoyed at more people purchasing Bible class materials and stuff and getting back into in-person worship everywhere across the U.S. With that being said, you have developed some material for Creation to Revelation, I believe specifically on Genesis. Would you recommend that for a Bible class?
I would, yeah. So I actually have some of those things with me, and so I can kind of show the different ones. The reason so these were born out of a desire, like a personal need that I felt, a personal like hole that I felt. Like I said, we were homeschooling and we weren't originally planning on doing that, and it just kind of happened. And I wanted a workbook, and I looked for a workbook that was Bible based. But that would also work in school skills. So handwriting and critical thinking, look back questions, copying, tracing, all of those kinds of things. And I wanted the same thing that I could use for my 6-year-old. And also she was 4 at the time. I wanted something we could all sit down together and learn. And I really wanted that to also just kind of expand and be our big Bible time for the day too. And so I wanted it to be text-based. I didn't want a workbook or, a study guide or something where it was someone else's version of the story. Although those have their time and place, we definitely use those also. But I wanted something where I was literally going to have to open my Bible with my kids, read it, and then have them go through the scripture with me and like reiterate what we learned. And so that's where these workbooks came from. I have 2 of them. I have the Glean Together workbook. And so this one's kind of like for older kids, we recommend like elementary, lower elementary for this one. So it goes through, it has 1 page per chapter of Genesis. So the idea is that you can read the chapter of Genesis, you could read it in advance and summarize it if you didn't want to read the whole thing in that sitting. It's really parent or teacher led. So you as the parent or you as the teacher can decide how deep or how surface level you want to go with this. But what I do with my girls is we sit and we read the text, and while I'm reading the text, they are either tracing or copying the theme verse, and then they can color the picture. And then after I'm done reading the chapter, there's 3 to 5 questions that, again, are text-based. And every once in a while, there's like a thought question for them to just kind of think, okay, well, how would I feel in this situation or something like that? And so then they answer those questions. And it's just, I don't know, it's been super helpful for us. We also created matching flashcards. So it has the picture, the same matching picture that's in the workbook on the front. And then on the back, it has the chapter of Genesis and the chapter title, and then the theme verse. So what's really helpful with these is you can go through and you can drill the different chapters and the different titles. So my girls, we've worked on memorizing 1 chapter for Genesis. So we just finished Genesis chapter 37, and it's beyond incredible, one with like all of the repetition that we do, how my little 4-year-old can sit there and tell me one thing that happened in every one of those 37 chapters. It's kind of mind-blowing when I sit there and I listen to all of those titles come out of her mind. But I think it's just the consistency of she's coloring the same picture, she's seeing the same picture on the flashcards, she's seeing the same title, she's writing the same verse, and that repetition. I also made a kind of by request. After we came out with that workbook, we had a request for basically a preschool version. And so this one is called the Little Gleaners version, and it just has a bigger picture for them to color. And then because their fine motor skills aren't quite as developed, and then bubble letters for them to either color or trace the letters, and then a word. And we kind of varied the words. So some of them are really easy. Land, that one's one that a kid is going to know. But then there are some vocabulary words in here that they might not know, some names. So here's one, covenant. A 3-year-old or 4-year-old might not know what covenant means, but that's a really great conversation starter. But it's not, every chapter isn't a vocabulary word. So we tried to make like kind of this balance. And then the theme verse matches, the chapter title matches, and then the picture matches. So it's just kind of a way to do Bible time all together, but also kind of work in those school skills. It could very easily work into a Bible class if you wanted to do a Bible class on Genesis. If you only wanted, to focus on the Bible aspect, Bible education part of it, and leave the school skills back, you could just do the flashcards. There's so many different ways to kind of work it into whatever your circumstances are, your environment is that you're, looking for material on. But those were a really big passion project for me because they were born out of this need that I felt in my own home. So they were definitely a labor of love.
For sure. And with your kids being able to go into Genesis and say something out of every chapter, that sounds very similar to the 3-cycle approach developed by Bob Waldron. And with Creation to Revelation, I know that they have a bunch of materials on the 17 time periods, where you have like the big files to put things in, and then inside of those, so like before the flood. So you're going into those time periods and really digging in. Just like the 3-cycle approach. Yes.
So the 3-cycle approach is exactly what, first of all, my parents did in my home growing up, and definitely kind of the approach we're taking in our home. My 2-year-old right now is learning he can't talk very much, but he's learning 17 time period hand motions. And so we tell him, Ed, you can tell the story of the Bible with your hands. And so he sits there and he tells the story of the Bible. And then my girls have worked on, the different contents. Where I see the Glean books fitting in is that 3rd cycle where you're going back and you're actually learning the text itself. So you have the 1st cycle of learning these 17 periods of Bible history. Then you have your 2nd cycle where you learn the contents, which are kind of like your subfolders. And then the 3rd cycle is going back and like digging into the text and figuring out, okay, where do I find this particular story in the text, and what does the text actually say about it? And so I really do see the Glean books as kind of being, at least in our home, our first step into that 3rd cycle of here's the actual text and here's what we can pull and learn and memorize from it. Will my girls forever know 50 titles of Genesis, chapter titles of Genesis? Probably not. But I'm hopeful that, when they hear, something, the story of Joseph, I'm hopeful that they'll be like, I know that's in, the ending part of Genesis, and be able to kind of just put those pieces together where they might not remember every single detail, but I hope they know where to go to find it. So yes, we use the 17 time periods probably on a daily basis here. My son just today was, this is also a CTR Creation Revelation product. This is their mini coloring book, and this is what he was using today. We're doing kind of like summer studies with the girls, and where we're just having them do a little bit of like schoolwork. And so this was what he did while they were doing that, and we practiced. We did the hand motions, and then he just sat and colored, and I sat and colored with him, and we talked about, okay, who are the people, and what's really cool is the characters match. So like Adam is the same in every single Creation to Revelation product. He looks the same. And so Ed can start to recognize he's for some reason obsessed with Isaiah. We don't really know why, but he wants to find Isaiah in every single Creation to Revelation product. So he looks through and he goes, Isaiah, looking through. But this is kind of where we're starting with him of just, let's learn the 17 time periods of Bible history. And it's neat because the girls, since they know him, they can help train and teach him. You know, if I'm making dinner, I can say, sit and do the 17 time periods with Ed. And like all three of them can sit and learn that together. And it's helping reinforce it in their minds because they're now teaching it. It's helping him learn it. It's just, it's the approach we've decided to take because we feel like it's so effective and such like a family friendly approach to learning the Bible. Sorry, that was a lot to answer your short question.
Perfect. So for the people watching this on video, you held up that coloring book that he had colored on. That is fantastic artwork, by the way.
I mean, he might have had a little bit of help with part of that.
Of course. But so with those, are they reusable or how do they work?
So this one is not reusable. This is the mini coloring book. This one is, you know, kind of a one and done situation. But what I love about these is while the coloring portion of it is one and done, the content is all still here. And so I don't plan on getting rid of this even after he's colored on the pages because he can still read the title at the bottom. He can still tell the characters. And it's the perfect size to toss into my diaper bag. I think I currently have CTR products I know we have multiple in the car. I know we have multiple in our pew at church. We have them all over the house. There's one in my diaper bag. Like, I just love how easy they are for on the go. But I also did grab, because this is what my girls were doing. We're about to stop. At the end of this quarter, we're going back fully in person. But we're doing one Bible class on Zoom at our congregation. And this is what my girls have been grabbing. This is the dry erase book. And so this one is fully reusable. It has the colored image here at the top and then the matching image at the bottom. And so they can trace the words down here. They can color it with either markers or dry erase crayons or something like that. And then at the end of the Bible study, we wipe it clean and then we reuse it the next week. But like I said, all of the people match all of the other products that CTR has. And so there's no doubt in their minds when they're coloring. It was really neat because Erilyn was probably 3 or 4. She was not very old. And she was looking at Invasion and Conquest of Canaan. And then she kind of got this look on her face and she switched back and went to Wandering in the Wilderness. And she said, Mom, that right there looks like Joshua. And I said, that is Joshua. So he has brown hair here, and then in Invasion, it's the same person, but he just has gray hair. And it was just so cool because here she was, this tiny little thing, realizing though, she goes, well, why is he in this picture? And I was like, because he was there. He was a part of the wandering also. And so it's just really neat, like the connections that they can make in their minds. These pictures and images have grown with my kids, where they're still discovering new things and learning new things from the products that they've literally been using since they were, 2 years old. And it's just so cool to see those connections being made.
One item that I happened to grab were the magnets. And like you were saying, it's exactly the same material, just in different forms. So they have like magnets and Go Fish cards and different activity books with all the same characters in it.
Yes, which is why my 2-year-old is obsessed with finding Isaiah, whether he's looking, we had one of our favorites that especially my 6-year-old is loving is the Shadows of Christ series. And so it has an Old Testament character on it. And then it shows the foreshadowings and then connects it to Christ, who gives then the most complete full picture. And so she was looking through one of those and Ed happened to see Isaiah in one of those. Now he had learned Isaiah from one of the other CTR products. I don't even remember which one. And he was like, Isaiah. But yes, it's so cool that they not only do the pictures literally match across like all the 17 time period products, but like even the characters from the 17 time periods match the characters from Shadows of Christ, which match the characters from Generations. All of the different CTR products match. And it's really helpful for the kids, just that, again, that repetition in their brain of, oh, this is that person. Now I know more information about them because I'm seeing them in a different setting with different words. It's really cool to see that happen.
Yeah, so like you're saying, Creation of Revelation has so many different products. So for someone just looking to get into getting these products, where would you suggest they start?
So it's a super hard question to answer because I think my answer is constantly changing to that question. What I generally will point people to is the 17 time periods, and I will say this booklet costs like $4, I think, or something like that. I was like, it's worth its weight in gold. Like, it's so valuable. And if you start here, this is like basically your parent guide, your teacher's guide, and then you have all of these.
Just tuning in via audio, she was pointing to the 3-cycle approach.
Yes, sorry, yeah. And then whatever age your child's at, if they like books, you could get a 17 time period spiral. If they like coloring, you could get the dry erase or the mini coloring, or there's just so many different ways to go to learn the story of the Bible. The other option that I tell people and point people to is the actual spiral called The Story of the Bible. Very similar to 17 time periods. It's a little bit more of just a story and less of it reads more like a story. There's actual like captions at the bottom. So it's like the perfect book to read at bedtime, or if you're sitting there and wanting to have like a very like a story-led kind of a session, Bible session with your child, that's a really great one to grab. I also love all of the mini coloring books. They have a lot of different ones. There's drills and themes. There's 17 time periods, Story of the Cross. Story of the Cross has a special, like that whole series has a special place in my heart because that was actually an idea that was brought to Brian, who's the owner and illustrator and the mastermind behind Creation to Revelation. But that idea was brought to him by my mom, who said that she wished she had a product to hand her children in the pew and to go over and take home that would help children understand the Lord's Supper better. And so it's an entire, they have spirals and they have flashcards and all sorts of things, but it's the Story of the Cross series. Again, like just like this, I think there's a dry erase book and there's a mini coloring book, and but that one is really powerful because it's helpful and specific to what we're doing in the pew at church. And it wasn't just created by a young mom. It was created by an experienced mom who was looking back and saying, I wish I had this for my kids. And so that one's really special. And I recommend if someone's looking for something for their child to have in the pew and saying like, oh, I want our time in the pew. If you find yourself, turning and saying shh, 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 all through the service, there are ways that we can incorporate or ways that we can involve our children in the worship. And that's one way. It's just been huge and such a game changer for me and my kids, because when that portion of the worship service comes up, I can turn and I can say, okay, here are, some books or some coloring books that you can use to help keep your mind focused while I'm trying to focus my mind too. So those are some of our favorites that we're using.
That's great. Well, we are so excited to start carrying these Creation to Revelation products in the CEI bookstore storefront as well as on truthbooks.com. Before I let you go, I know that you mentioned Mommy and Me at the beginning. Would you like to talk any more about that?
Yeah, it's ever changing, constantly changing, kind of depending on where I am in life. I always say I don't have a specific led purpose for the Mommy and Me Facebook page. I just share things that I'm doing at home with my kids. So if I'm teaching Bible class, I'm probably sharing materials that I'm using in my Bible class. And if I'm not teaching Bible class, I'm probably sharing either tools or resources or things that I'm doing with my kids here at home. It's never intended, it's never my desire to be any kind of like a standard or to say like, this is what everyone should be doing, because I know that's not the case. But I also know sometimes it's helpful just to see a real mom out there doing and fighting the same battles and striving for the same purpose, which is to just raise children who love the Lord. And so in my own imperfect way, I'm just sharing what I'm working on and we're working through here at home. So, yeah, I just, and at different stages this year with homeschooling, I have not done a ton with the Mommy and Me page because I was needed here and my priorities kind of had to be shifted and changed. But with that kind of came the Glean books, which were really cool. And that was a neat development. And so, yeah, anyways, it's a really neat space though, because I know that every time I go there, when you put together people who love children and people who love the Lord, which are the people who are there following that Facebook page, you're not going to have anything negative or bad. It's always going to be a bright space on the internet, which is needed.
Yes, and I know it's been an encouragement to many people this past year.
Thank you.
Well, I thank you so much for coming on the Taking His Hand podcast with me.
Thank you for
just
having
really
me.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here and chatting about this stuff. This is all super important to me, and I said, I was actually talking with my sister the other day, and I said, with all my heart, I believe that people don't need anything more than the Bible to teach their children or to teach anyone. I don't think you need anything other than God's word. And I deeply, honestly believe that. But this year, we actually started subscribing to like a meal delivery service, because I am not a great cook and I'm not a creative cook. And I just needed a little help in that. And so it's really helpful when this box of ingredients is delivered at my door. I still have to do all the work though. I still have to prep the meal and cook the meal and serve the meal to my family, because that's the role that I have been given and blessed with. And I kind of see CTR products as like being that meal delivery service for me, meaning I still sit and have to put the work in. And that's the blessing of being able to sit and teach my children about the Lord that I love. But CTR just makes it a little bit easier to do that. And so anyways, I'm always excited anytime I get a chance to talk about it.
Of course. Well, thank you again. And again to you guys, you can buy these Creation to Revelation products at our CEI bookstore storefront or at truthbooks.com. We are so excited to be partnered with Creation to Revelation in all of this, and definitely check out their stuff because like she said, it's some really great ingredients and we can deliver it straight to your door. Well, thanks again, Hannah. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.